morning from Nigeria. Good to have you on Rise and Shine this morning. Okay, I do hope we can hear Iwan in the moment, and we are going to um, able to have that conversation with him. I see the broad smile on his face, and I hope
Good morning.
that
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Good to have you. Good to have you. How is the United States this morning?
I would say that personally, from a personal standpoint, I'm very sad and disappointed. It's actually my first time voting in an election in the US.
Okay.
So it's a really sad day for a lot of people like me who believe in what I stand for. And we're just looking forward to having another 4 years of President Trump coming in and just making a mess of what we're about to see. So let's see how it goes.
So why are you sad, and why are the rest of Americans sad? So break that down a little bit more.
So it's really interesting because a lot of people in Nigeria do not understand what election really means. It means that each candidate come up with a lot of proposals and ideas that they want to give to the public, and most of what agenda the former president has is not geared towards middle class. It's geared towards rich people. We're trying to give them tax cut, give them like an upper hand to get away and not pay tax. And these are taxes that should be used to help people in the less developed counties and regions of the U.S. And you see that you end up just being left behind. And someone like me, I got a loan from the government to go to school. And the President Biden has been trying to see how we can give loan forgiveness of over $10,000 to students like me. But the Republican Party has been blocking that order, and they've not allowed it to go through the Senate. So it's painful to see that a party that has decided to say, no, we cannot help you people, we cannot assist you people, we cannot, it's just sad. It's just sad, just to say the least.
So as of this morning, we know that Donald Trump is leading in the polls, and I think that is where, your upset is coming from this morning for a lot of persons coming from your background of thought. And but don't you think that there's also a lot of Americans who are excited that Donald Trump is actually leading at the polls, and nothing is conclusive just yet? Because as we know, in the trajectory of elections, it can turn out in any state. I know that some of the swing states have already pulled in their numbers, but yet counting is still going on. Don't you think that there's some persons excited about Trump leading currently?
Absolutely. I wouldn't say there's a lot of people that are really excited about what's going on. He has so far pulled 200 and according to CNN, 266 electoral votes, and Harris has pulled out about 188. And there's no way you have to win like Georgia, Nevada, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Those are where we have a lot of representatives, which are the electoral votes. So already the Republican Party are going to take over the Senate, and we're now looking at them just doing whatever they can. Like, imagine having a president who would sign an order and send it to the Senate will pass, and send it to the House of Representatives, and they will just pass because we don't have, the Democrats do not have a majority. And there are a lot of people who are looking at it as just a sad day, like me. And I would say I would like to speak for myself alone, because it's interesting, because we see these numbers coming, and like me, I'm a first-time voter. It's my first time of voting, and I went out there. I saw a very incredible turnout of young people who are probably voting for the first time, and they came out to vote in large quantity, and I was really impressed. Coming out, I was very happy. I said to myself, wow, this is the first time we will have a woman president. But quite disappointing when those votes came in. It's interesting because the last election, which I saw, I couldn't vote then. I wasn't a citizen yet, but I saw a massive number of people going out to vote on the election day. And the former president was telling people not to cast in their ballot early in absentee ballot or early voting. So he asked people to go in that same day to cast their ballot. So a lot of votes that we saw were votes that were casted by Democrats, which was the early voting and the absentee ballot. But this time, he told everybody, cast your ballot early. He was very smart to say that. So I guess a lot of people really did cast their ballot early. Like my wife sent in her ballot from Nigeria down here, and she got a message that voter would cast it. So it's interesting to see how a lot of people that voted in this election.
Okay. Now, as of yesterday, we had the debate between Harris and Trump and whose policies would best benefit the people of America and by extension the people of the world. I'd like to digress a little bit to talk about the atmosphere. What is the general atmosphere of the people of America at this point in time?
So that's very interesting because a typical American is interested in how much can be used to help, like the basic need that you need. Like, let's say, I go to the counter to get a thing like egg. You see it's very expensive. The way things were measured before, they keep the price at the same range, but they reduce the quantity until sell it to you. So you can imagine that we need a president who has a policy that will be able to help the lower class, because the American people are really going through a lot. The inflation rate is not only affecting Nigerians, it's also affecting people over here. And that's something that cannot be seen if you're staying outside of this country. That's something that can be felt, but that cannot be felt if you're not staying here. So from the high rate of gas that you're buying, the high rate of even clothes, and even the basic essentials that you need every day. It's interesting that that's what people are going to look out for. And when you see people talk about, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I look at it as it's a global issue. It's not only happening in Nigeria, it's not only happening in the US, it's happening everywhere in the world. Things are getting very expensive. The economy is getting to a rate where it's out of control. And also climate change as well has also been a very major issue to all this. So the Americans are looking forward to see what Trump can do, because he was running on the message that, with bad economy, Harris came from her boss was the president. She couldn't do anything. We have war and we cannot control our neighbors. So people are looking at it as Trump is coming to be a savior. He's coming to save them. He's coming to make a lot of things, and that's what we're looking forward. We're looking forward to see those things happen, and also pray it happens well as well.
So one of the things I would like us to look at amid all of this is, if Trump is currently leading at the polls, we have to go back and look at the 4-year term, the first time Trump sat in that seat as president of the United States of America. In your opinion, you were in the United States at the time. Was it better during his time as president versus, having Joe Biden on seat? Now we're talking Democrats versus Republicans. In these two administrations, how would you compare and contrast the activities of governance? We know that, Donald Trump was cataclysmic with a lot of, bouts on social media, tweeted by himself, did a lot of media roles, which people knew him a lot, more for. But let's talk policies, reforms, things that he did, infrastructure, things he reversed, things that he put in place. So I wanted to compare the two administration so far, and why, you make your stand, as it were?
Okay, that's very important. I like that question. Thank you very much for that question. Now, when I came here, I came out as an immigrant, right? I got straight into college, and was really interesting because the immigration policy that they had then, that the former president had then, was really nice. It was really easy for someone like me to come into this country from Nigeria, and get processed, got my green card immediately, and everything was done. But once President Trump got into power, it was very hard. I had a couple of really family friends and friends who also wanted to come here, and the immigration policy was tightened. I told him, well, I had to wait this number of months to get this, but you're waiting more than a year. And these are policies that affect people who are also in Nigeria and other African countries supporting President Trump and saying, oh, he should come into power. Like I told one of my friends, I said, once he gets into power, he's going to reverse all the presidential order that Biden gave that enabled you, your family, your friends to come into this country. It's not going to stop, but it's going to tighten it. That's his plan. They're saying, make America great. They believe that you as a black person is not supposed to be here. And the way you're treated, these are people who can loudly tell you that you don't belong here. You walk into a supermarket, a shopping mall, and you see the way people look at you. You stand into a line to buy something, and someone grab their purses, grab their phones, and hold it close to them, and act as if you're going to snatch the bag from them just because you're black. So it's an opportunity for people to tell you don't belong here. It's a regime where people will tell you to go back to your country. It's a regime where people will tell you that you don't have a right to say anything. You don't have right to anything. So it's a regime where people are going to tell you that as a young person, you cannot get anything to go to school. You cannot get any loan forgiveness. And I was really happy when I heard Vice President Harris talk about loans for new homeowners. I was like, oh wow, that's really good for people who are low-income earners to be able to get a house. And it's a major issue here to get a house. So imagine a regime that will give that to young people, especially the black community, right? That would really help. But I guess those dreams are no more. So it's something for us to look at.
Something for us to look at. Now, so you're saying that the Biden administration has done better for the people than the Trump administration, in your own opinion, in your own experience of the country as an immigrant at the time?
Yes, absolutely, a lot. And we look at it as from the standpoint of someone who came from Nigeria down here. I would say that there's been a lot of loans that have been given to the black community. There have been a lot of incentive that's been given to the black community as well. And I mean, the vice president is a woman of color, so she knows what to do.
Is Kamala Harris really a woman of color? Because
yeah,
I mean, she herself is mixed race, and she is married to an American.
Absolutely, she's a woman of color. She's from a Mexican background and also from an Indian background. So absolutely, she's a woman of color. No matter how you want to twist it, if she stands out and a white person stands out, there's nothing you can say that she's not a woman of color, whether she's married to a white person or whether she's married to a black person. So it is interesting for us to see what this regime is going to look like if they're going to reverse whatever President Biden had done, especially for the immigrants. And it is interesting also for them to use the fact that a lot of immigrants are coming into the country to drive the campaign that we need to make American great again. It doesn't portray the message of unity. It doesn't portray the message that the United States is a state where people can come here for freedom. It just doesn't portray who they are. So I think it is something that we should look forward to as well.
So this would be my next question before Francis takes you on. How does this affect the rest of the world? Because I think why a lot of Nigerians, some Nigerians, of course, the persons that are bent, there are Nigerians living in Nigeria who are Democrats and those who are Republicans. So we are all split along different lines. But this is what I'm going to say. Holistically, looking at the policy direction of the Republicans or the Democrats, now split it Donald Trump, Joe Biden versus Harris. How is this affecting the rest of the globe? In terms of policy direction, the United States, just as you alluded earlier, has been hit with the worst kind of its inflation in recent times, which invariably is affecting the economic activity of the rest of the world. But we know that supposedly, so to a very large extent, during the Trump administration, the economy was somewhat stable, although his administration was even hit, in the middle of the COVID-19 era. So how do you look at all of these policy directions and activities of both sides of administration, how it affects the rest of the world? Because all of us don't have to come to America to look for visas to school or to live there. But the policy direction and activities of the United States does affect the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting questions. I wouldn't really know in depth. I would just say the things that I know. And it's interesting because I'm not sure, like I told someone the other day, if you listen to most of their policies, some of them have very limited answers to policies that affect other parts of the world, right? What they keep saying is that they're going to do everything for Americans and for the Americans. Everything in America for the Americans. So very, very oftentimes you hear them say, oh, whatever I'm going to do is going to affect this. However, the former president have several times said that the war in Ukraine shouldn't have happened. He would have stepped in and done something. And it's interesting because you look at how he approaches issues, and it's different from what a typical American would like him to, what he would like him to do. He does things the way he does it as a businessman, whereas people here in the U.S. are like, oh, you shouldn't say that. Oh, you shouldn't say that. And people were like, oh, wow, we're going to witness another years of just when the president talks, you have to use something to cover your ear. So a lot of policies that will happen would be policies about maybe economic trades and policies about immigrations, and also policies about businesses that are done outside the U.S., like importation businesses. And those are things that would really interest me to look at for and see how it would benefit the U.S. because it will be a very, very interesting 4 years, trust me.
Okay. Now, let's come back to another very serious conversation that people who are not currently in the U.S. are worried about. And in your earlier comment, you also draw attention to the fact that we're getting to that point where people will begin to be a lot more afraid. Let's take a mind back to the 2020 era where Lloyd Austin, I think, if I got his name correctly, Floyd was killed by a police official. He was not armed, he didn't carry any weapon, he was just out doing his business. And despite his plea and call for himself to be released, he died in broad daylight, generating and sparking uproar that led to a massive protest across the United States. Now, are we gearing towards that era? Should we wake up to an announcement that former U.S. President Donald Trump has now returned to the White House? That is one question. Now, the second one is going to take you down to the tax reforms and questions around policies. Kamala Harris has consistently said, look, I want to give everybody the opportunity to be on the table, and we are going to build a community where we all collectively own. While Donald Trump on the other side is aimed at driving out anybody and everybody who is not in his word, an American, which means we're going to see a lot more people being exiled or deported or sent out of the U.S. How will this affect the thousands of immigrants, who are currently in the U.S.?
The issue that with that brother who died in the hands of the police was very tragedy, and it's a lesson to every other I guess law enforcement officials to understand how to de-escalate issues without using force, right? So I'm not sure that would happen again, whether it's Harris or President Trump. It was a lesson for every law enforcement officer to learn, and I also think that there might be some form of anger and some form of when a president is telling you, hey, you can go do this, there's a way you command your words, and even when you don't say do it, they will do it, right? It's a literal meaning of saying do something and you don't. People do it, right? I feel like that era will really come where people, like I said, will tell you you're not from here, right? I've had an occasion where someone looked at me and they were saying something and someone just turned and looked at me, and you just know what that look means, right? That you don't belong here. You actually you're not supposed to be here because you're black, right? So it's like people say things without saying things, right? So when a president sit there to make comments, what do you expect the leaders and other people who are with him to react? They're going to do things that, just depict what that comment means. And in terms of the economy, I look forward to having an economy where things are better than this, because he kept saying he can do better, like you example like you just gave, right? He kept saying that he can do better, he can do better than Harris, he can do better than what President Biden has done. And it's something that we should look forward to. At this point, I wish him all the best. I wish that the things that he planned to do will be better for our community. And this should be, less hate. I mean, you don't have to hate your brother. You don't have to hate your sister. We bring peace back. We understand each other. And then we move forward. That we're all here for a common good. And we're all here to help each other. So I think that would be my prayer.
So just before we talk a little bit about the numbers coming in from different parts of the United States and the fact that, of course, Donald Trump seems to be leading, is actually leading at the polls, one thing to wrap up this set of conversations we've been having, we also need to look at, the impact of the withdrawal of immigrants from the United States. Maybe on the flip side, that's something that, former President Donald Trump hasn't, analyzed very unequivocally, because look at the fact that immigrants are the ones sustaining the economy of the United States. So if we have a clamp down on immigrants, for instance, I think eventually the economy of the United States will suffer, because I don't think that they have the population in and of itself, or maybe even the willpower of its natives, to get the work done in America. I don't know if that's a sentiment that you also buy into. If we, and I think it's something Francis said that I want, to get clear. It's not that the immigrants in the United States will be, will be thrown out very easily. It's just that it's going to become more difficult for more people to come in. Did I get that right?
I mean, as a human being, not even a president, as a human being breathing the same air that I'm breathing, you have no right to tell me not to settle here. First of all, the real people who own the United States are the Indians, right? And Donald Trump came from somewhere. His wife is from Germany, I guess, if I'm not wrong, Germany or any other country. So he's surrounded by immigrants. He's an immigrant. He wasn't born here. Even if he was born here, his forefathers came from somewhere, migrated from somewhere down here. So it's a very interesting way of looking at life, looking at how people came here, right? We all came here, and American is run by a country of immigrants, and these are immigrants who, whether you're black, you're Hispanic, you're Asian, you're here for a purpose, and you're here, you're contributing, you're paying your taxes. As long as you're paying your taxes, you have every right to be heard and say anything. But when you're not given that equal opportunity, and you're blocked by a system where it favors people who has, they look at your surname and they're like, oh, okay, right? It just raises a red flag for them. And when they see a white surname, they're able to, do anything, is it a loan or anything that they'll give you, right? So it's not as if they're going to send everybody out. It's the fact that the injustice, right? The injustice in the system, and the fact that you don't get to receive the same treatment as your fellow white colleagues. So that's what one of the major issues that we have.
So now another big contention, apart from who wins the White House seat, is the conversation about the Senate. So of course it's still divided along the lines of the Democrats and the Republicans. And if the coin is flipped, if Donald Trump wins the election, who himself is a Republican, and the Democrats have a stronger stake in the Senate, it would actually affect his policy direction and activities, because look at it, now the opposition will be stronger than what he might be able to fight through to get some of his work done. So what are your thoughts about the Senate elections, which are also simultaneously going on? And we currently see that the GOP is leading, GOP is leading at 51, and the Democrats at 42% of that poll that is being churned in. What's the hope of the Senate going forward?
So it's interesting because at this point, I think they're going to, the Republicans are going to take over the Senate, and just like they always do, they're going to do their job. And I hope Democrats are now going to be a minority. And like I said, one of the issues that they had in the tenure of Biden was that they didn't accept a lot of proposals that Biden brought, right? And it was interesting because this proposal actually would help the people at the grassroots. These are things that would actually touch people's lives, but they feel that those things are not priority. So you have these rich people who have been in the Senate for over 10 or so many years, who believe that they lost touch with the people at the grassroots. And like you said, it's going to be a very interesting year where the president will just sign an executive order and pass it over to them, and they will just approve it, and because there's nobody to contend with them and say, hey, this thing should be this, or this is what I think it should be. But then there would be a balance of power, I hope, at the House of Representatives, where we're seeing, during Biden's regime, we had the Republican be a minority at that level, and I'm hoping that whatever thing they come to agree would be something that will help the common man. I'm really interested to see what they will do about the student loan forgiveness, because that's something that has been holding a lot of people captive. Someone like my father-in-law is still paying a student loan for one of his sons, and my mother-in-law is still paying his student loan. You can imagine she was done with school for over 30 years, but still paying student loan. So it's a major issue, and these are things these rich politicians don't care about. They don't understand how much it affects the common man. So it's something that I'm really interested to look at for as well.
Okay. Now, as it stands, in as much as there is that slight variation between Harris and Donald Trump, there is still a big space and hope for victory for Kamala Harris. And that comes down to her ability to win in the key states, talking about the blue wall states, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, which a lot of projections also said, she holds strong footing in these areas. And with all of the things that are happening, one of the concerns that the people of the world also have is Donald Trump beginning to talk tough, like he did back in 2020, when the votes had yet not been completed and he declared himself winner. We are all not strangers to the Capitol riot and everything that happened afterwards. These concerns also re-emanating, looking at some of the comments that Donald Trump might be making, and the fact that he's even getting prepared to speak to, some of the key areas that he has been declared winner.
Yes, interesting. He's speaking right now. He's making a statement right now. Has his family out and everybody out, and interesting to hear what he will say. Like I said, he's someone that when he says something, everybody follows, right? Whether he's saying it in a literal meaning or not. And we're going to look forward to that as well. We're going to see how people are going to respond, knowing that there was a big mistake that happened in the past. And I hope the people who are working for him will also be able to guide him and tell him what to do and how to speak. Interesting actions that are coming out. The blue walls are not really holding as it were. It's really a very close race. Like Wisconsin and Michigan, if she can win those states, and I don't see it's not possible right now. Donald Trump is ahead of with 52%, and Harris is with 46%, and that's a very big margin, and it's almost about 82% of vote that has been called, very few remaining, and you can imagine it's a close call. There's no way you can win to get those votes. The votes remaining cannot balance up whatever has been gotten, and that's a very big, massive electoral college vote that is going to go to Donald Trump. And I'm also very optimistic to see what is going to happen in states like Wisconsin as well, and there are very big, mighty counties that has huge votes that will be going for the Democrats. So let's still look out for that. Again, it's too close. It's too close. The margins are too close. If it wasn't close, I would say it's possible, but that's why I'm just ready to go to bed right now.
But I would really say that Kamala Harris has put in a fight, for the race to the White House, as it were, because you also have to look at her numbers, and it is quite good. Imagine if she were not up against a Donald Trump.
A miracle can still happen.
Yes, a miracle can still happen. I mean, there's still counting to be done. There's still places that the votes have not come in. But just as Iwan has said, the window for it to be overturned is really slim. And we haven't even covered the conversation of the the college votes just yet, and which is the tantamount bedrock of what the United States election is all about. But then, let's talking about Kamala Harris and her her fight for the seat. I would say that she has actually put in a really resilient, fight for that particular position. And I mean, it would have been a great celebration for the women of the world, women of color, as you had said, and the women of the United States of America. It would be a fresh race. She stands at 42.2% right now in the numbers that have come in the polls. And of course, Donald Trump starts at 51.1%. Quite some margin to be covered, but some good. I think, Francis is a Kamala Harris, what's now, supporter, just as you are. But I'd like to, just wrap up this conversation with you. Thank you so much for your time. But holistically, let's talk about the aftermath of the election. what are your projections and your thoughts about the atmosphere of the United States after the election? Now, I'm going to make you flip that two ways. If Kamala Harris wins the election by any stroke of luck, how do you think the atmosphere of the United States is going to be? And if it's a Donald Trump that finally gets that seat, what are your projections and your hopes for the United States afterwards?
It would have been a very, very interesting for us to see a woman be a president in the United States. And this is a country that has prided himself in putting women first, right? And it is an opportunity to give it to a woman, but as you can see, they did it to Hillary Clinton, and they also did it to Kamala Harris. And I would say it's a knock in the knee. It's a gut punch for everyone, every woman, right? Also, the atmosphere people would be very, very excited, especially women of color, like I said earlier, and a lot of immigrants as well. And it would be a history for you to tell your daughter, listen, you can do it. You can stand and beat someone of this caliber, right, at the polls. Also, understand that the vice president took up this position just 3 months to campaign. So imagine if she had an ample time to campaign, to talk about what she has to do. It was a huge, huge, huge slim chance. Just a few months of campaigning, and look at the damages she has done. So I give it to her. I think it's a win for her, for me, right? To take it up in just a few months. So it's something that we should look up to. If Trump should win, how would the atmosphere be? I think a typical white neck citizen will be very happy about what's going on. They will be very proud. They will be out there to celebrate. And I'm happy. I'm also excited that I was able to go out and vote and exercise my rights. And I'm also looking forward to see how this regime is going to look like. And I hope and pray that all the things that he talked about is going to do something that will benefit everybody and not a section of people that he feels are his friends and rich and should be richer than every other person. So let's see how that will play on.
All right, those are really strong hopes. And in light of, Donald Trump coming in, becoming the president of the United States once again, is there a way that the people can hold him accountable to his campaign promises and activities, especially, just like you're saying, so that he's not working for the 1% of the 1% in the United States, but has to make his policies trickle down to everybody? Is there a system in place to make that, work in the United States?
Absolutely. Let us understand something, that this is a president that has been convicted with about 30-something counts felony, and this is also a president that does not understand how to communicate with a lot of people, especially when he's very angry. This is a president that has shown so much anger about a particular set of people, a particular set of community. And this is also somebody that doesn't understand that there is a certain tone a president should use, right, to communicate. And there is a way people look at the United States. They look at the United States as a country of pride, a country that other countries should emulate. But when you have somebody who doesn't know when to stop, who doesn't know how to communicate properly, it creates a very, very different atmosphere, the way people look at you, right? So let's be clear about how a president should act, and let's look forward to seeing how he will also act. And I'm hoping, I'm praying that, like I said, people should hold him accountable. Whether the system is there in place, he's the president, he can do whatever he wants to do, right? And he needs to bring in people who are also in understanding of what should be done. He's a businessman, right? He has no knowledge of being a president. He just uses his money to get to where he is. And we have people who have been in politics, who have been in public service for many years, have that experience that should carry that action. To somebody like Vice President Harris. So it's something that we should look up to and see if he will change from what he used to say, and if he will change from what he wanted to do, so that he can drive a change and help the common American. Thank you.
Okay, well, I would really, really need to let you go because it's been a long conversation, and like you said, you need to go to bed. But I'm sure that by the time you wake up, you know, that more numbers would have come in, more things would have happened. But the journey to actually sitting on the seat is still quite, you know, some days down the line, a few months. Until we get to January, all of this will not have seen a final wrap. And we're hoping that the best man for the job, like I said, we haven't, you know, closed the doors on what the election results are going to be. We hope that the best man wins. But one last clause. Donald Trump does have those 32 count charges hung around his neck. If he wins this election, it means that his immunity covers for him with regards to those cases until it's done. How do the American people see this? And I mean, one would have thought that those count charges leveled against him might have really, really affected his numbers at the polls. But I mean, we're seeing the reverse of that.
Yeah, his supporters do not believe in all those things. I don't know, for some reason, the way they think, and just like you said, there's a presidential immunity that is on ground that would wipe out those things. It would just be something that never happened until the day he comes down as a president, which I'm not sure anybody would like to pursue such order. And it's interesting because his lawyers were trying to drag and postpone the case and drag. I wish he was charged with all those felony counts. I wish he was charged, but the lawyers kept dragging and knew that he would clinch the ticket. And once he clinched, and like we all saw, a lot of people left the party, right, because of his charges. A lot of people left the party, even close associates left the party because of that. And I hope that you know, Americans will also question and say, okay, look, this is somebody that was found with all these things, and is he fit to be a president? And it's too late, I guess. They didn't look at all those things. They thought the media was against Trump. They thought the Democrats were trying to drive a narrative that is false. And it's interesting to how people think. So I just hope that you know, it's another 4 years of Trump, and we'll see how it goes.
All right, then. Thank you so much for your time on Rise and Shine this morning. It's been good, you know, coming into your mind as, you know, a civilian and as a citizen of the United States of America, interfacing with the elections in real time this morning. Thank you so much for your time on Rise and Shine this morning. Of course, we have been speaking to Mr. Inwang, who is a consultant, Kavil Inwang, who is a consultant in Atlanta, Georgia, United States of America. Let's let you go and catch some sleep, and we wish you all the best when you wake up in the morning of who is declared President of the United States of America.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.